Welcome to E4 Electric live from Bangkok. And I know this is an electric car channel, but nobody cares about electric cars today, including the guy who's responsible for making electric cars a thing and the electric revolution that actually happened. Elon Musk, he does not care about electric cars today at all, though I'm wondering if he has been for the last several months anyway. But what I want to talk about today is, the election. And by the way, let me just start with one thing. Two. One is, as you guys probably know, I am an independent, and I really truly hated both candidates. Not equally, but very close. But I definitely hate what both parties stand for and how polarized they are. As an independent, and I guess us independents have essentially decided most of the recent elections, including this one. I got to tell you, let me talk to you guys, my liberal friends who are crying and panicking and all kinds of stuff. But let me also tell you a second thing is my vote did not count. And I don't mean it's because I voted in Texas or whatever. No, I mailed my ballot. I live here in Bangkok, Thailand. So we go to the embassy and they have a ballot box. And a friend of mine who dropped his ballot in literally the same ballot box, because there's only one, had his delivered to his state of New York. For me, mine never got delivered. I dropped my ballot in, and I can see now, because you can track it, my ballot has never made it. My vote will not be counted. So fuck the democracy, because apparently a US citizen's vote does not count for some reason. And I can tell you many things that have probably gone wrong there. The fact that they tell us that we can vote until pretty much last day, just like you guys in America. And yet they also told me that it can take up to 30 days to deliver it, which also means that I think a lot of states only allow 5 to 7 extra days for the ballots, mail-in ballots from overseas to come in. So yes. But let's talk about what happened, and let me first talk what just maybe comes some fears, because I know a lot of my liberal friends are panicking and they're saying this is the end of democracy. Well, let me tell you a few things. As an independent who lives in a country that is not democracy, it is much nicer here, first of all. And I got to tell you, this is not the democracy. If I go outside right now or tomorrow and criticize any member of a royal family, I will spend the rest of my fucking life in Thai prison. Okay, that's the law here. Now, fortunately, also, you can go outside and say literally whatever else you want, and you will not be not only not going to prison, but you will not be canceled like you would be in America. So the democracy is a funny thing. I have picked this country. I picked my family picked America because we left Russia because we saw what was coming. And now I picked living here in non-democracy. Let's see, Josh, if you're going to be childish, I'm going to ban your ass real quick. Okay, so pick another place to celebrate or whatever it is that you do. We're not doing that. You can be a part of a reasonable conversation, but if you want to wave a flag and do all of that stuff, don't do it here. I will just ban you and you'll be gone. Okay. All right. So so democracy is a funny thing. Secondly, democracy has seen wars. By the way, as an independent, I thought I am sad no matter what. I hated both candidates. And yes, I actually think that Trump will try to sort of play with democracy, to put it mildly. But however, democracy has seen worse. You guys, Americans don't like history, but American history has seen a lot of shit, and it kind of survived, right? Now, does it mean it's guaranteed that it will survive this time? No, but at the same time, don't tell me how this is the end of the world. You already said that last time when Trent. And also, let me point something out. I believe the American democracy ended a few months ago when the Supreme Court said the president has pretty much full immunity as long as he is out for business. Like literally, right now, Biden can go and send the Marines to Trump and say, "Well, I did it as a president, so I'm immune." And I'm not a legal scholar, but that sounds like that's allowed now. So goodbye democracy. That already happened. And obviously Biden's not going to use it, but somebody else might. So it's already done. No need to worry anymore. Also, why do you think America deserves democracy, by the way? I mean, for the last 20, 30 years, the democracy has been misused over and over and over again. And the country has just, and I'm talking about statistically, has gotten dumber and dumber and dumber. The education level is falling. People no longer respect education or science or data or evidence or, So why does this country deserve democracy? Tell me. I understand you want it, but I just don't think it kind of deserves it. So those are my thoughts for those who are saying, "Oh my God, we're not going to have democracy anymore." I'm sorry. And by the way, I've talked to a lot of Republicans and Democrats and liberals and conservatives and some independents like me, which is harder and harder to find. And this is kind of pretty much a sentiment that a lot of people have right now. And yes, I agree. Like, for example, mail-in voting needs a better system than what we have, right? Because like I said, I have my vote completely lost. I gave it to U.S. government. I gave my vote to the U.S. government. Doesn't get any more U.S. government than U.S. embassy, right? And they fucking lost it. So it is, and yes, some people will say, well, democracy is a threat to our republic. You can agree or disagree, but here's another thing is, we all agreed to live in a country that's a democratic country, right? So when a president gets elected by what seems to be a landslide, right? I mean, we're talking about every single possible way, electoral votes, popular vote. It sounds like people were like, no, we know that Trump said this and a sexual assaults and convicted felon and tried to steal the election and and he lies all the time. And we're okay with it. Okay. You have to, I don't know if you have to respect that, but you have to also grasp reality that you live in a country where you don't agree with a lot of people. No, I also don't understand some people's votes. For example, I don't understand when, let's say, a woman votes to say, yeah, if tomorrow I get sexually assaulted and get pregnant because of that, I want to carry that child to term and raise a child of my, a rapist, essentially, right? So I don't understand it, but it sounds like a lot of women essentially said that with their votes. Okay, we have to respect the fact that that's what the reality is. A lot of people also said, well, I don't mind that he tried to do this and rig the election and he lies all the time and just sometimes he just says stupid shit. People specifically said, we don't mind that. Okay, now I know a lot of people do. I do, but I also have to say, but there's a big, large portion of population who doesn't. And listen, I know, and I've moved out of America for other reasons. As a matter of fact, those reasons came from the liberal agenda, right? So, U.S. passport is a very strong passport still in the world. You can move to another country, right? also, honestly, you can move to a state like California, where, you know, not that many things will probably change. And by the way, another thing, if you think that Trump will become a dictator, I don't think you need to worry. Because, yes, does he want to be a dictator? Is he going on a path of Putin and others? Absolutely. But those dictators who have taken power exactly the same way, legal way, were young when they did that. Putin was very young. He still is, right? Trump is just not going to make it because, without an actual revolution, the way a lot of dictators take over, like Putin, right, and Hitler, they did it all legally. So, but it takes a while. It takes about a decade a lot of times for Putin. It did, and Trump is not going to make it a decade, just like physically. Okay, so that you don't have to be actually afraid of that. But at the same time, you can move states, and you can also move to another country, like I did. I did not like what was happening in entire country in terms of women's behavior when it came to dating, men's rights, and I just moved. I said, okay, well, this country is no longer for me, and I moved. I don't really understand this whole philosophy that the country owes you to be the country that you want it to be. It doesn't. And unfortunately, it's going into a certain direction that you may not like. You can either weather the storm because, again, go read some history. Things go up and down, up and down. Everybody was screaming that the life is ending when Trump became president, and then everybody was screaming that life is ending when Biden became president. People overreact all the time. Now, we don't know what's going to happen with this term. I guess that's why a lot of people voted for her over him in terms of independence, just because we kind of know exactly what the presidency would have been under her, and we actually have very little clue of what he is going to do, just like last time. But it is what it is. Accept reality. Accept reality. However, I can also tell you that, let me tell you why Democrats lost. Let me tell you why I lost. And before that, real quick, I if we look at the track record, right, of Biden and Trump, we, essentially, I would assume Kamala Harris would be very similar. Under Trump, our foreign policy has been more successful. Now, whether or not he meant it to be, but I love what he did with North Korea. I love what he did with a lot of things. And I got to tell you, let me tell you, as somebody who's well-traveled and connected to Europe, Europe is still in the middle of a very bad thing that's happening to them, right? The Ukrainian war. It's right there. And I was in Europe only a few months ago, and nobody cares about the war anymore. Those fuckers even took the flags. Ukraine, at some point, all Europe was covered in Ukrainian flags. But they decided they don't even want, that's an eyesore for them. They don't even want to see Ukrainian flags. I visited 3 very different countries, from Sweden to Czech Republic, and nobody really cares about that anymore. So why does America have to care about a problem that's much bigger problem for Europe than it is for America? There are good answers to that, but at the same time, Europe is not pulling their weight. I like the fact that Trump is kind of threatening to leave NATO. I hope he doesn't, because that would not be good. But at the same time, asking European allies to pull their own weight. And these fuckers don't even want to have the flags around, much less pay the money for the war that's much more dangerous for them than it is for us, just because of the distance, So I got to tell you, I hope we're talking as Americans here, and we want a strong America, right? We want America that also is not being taken advantage of by other countries. And, as much as I do disagree with Trump on a lot of things, this is one of those things. I kind of think that, and like, again, we don't know what he's going to do in his second term, right? But I think what has been happening, and let's remember that Biden's administration started with a big clusterfuck of the pulling out of Afghanistan that way. I know they blame Trump for that, but they were in charge. I'm kind of thinking like, well, let's give this guy another chance and see if he can get things under control. And by the way, with so many lunatic dictators out there, Putin and China is becoming kind of, you know, I kind of want to have a crazy person in charge here to deal with other crazy people there. At the end of the day, when he was in charge and running around, being quite crazy and threatening and then making friends with other dictators, at the end of the day, the world was like, whoa, this guy means business. We better like listen up. I think that not a little bit, a lot of respect went up for America, right? So I got to tell you that my liberal friends, at the end of the day, you may not like the guy, you may not even like where he's coming from, but there is a good chance that he might actually put out some fires and make our security a little bit better. I think there's a pretty good chance. So let's see what happens. It might just be a benefit for all of us Americans. But let me tell you why you lost. Because even though I'm disappointed, I'm not surprised at all. Listen, I don't think a lot of people voted for Trump. I've talked to tons of Trump supporters, and they tell me like, listen, we don't like the guy. He's a dick, and he doesn't. But they hate what's coming from the other side even more, And I'll give you an example. I mean, for example, a lot of my Jewish friends said, listen, I don't like Trump at all. Literally nothing about him I like, except for one thing. I'm scared that the anti-Semitism in this country is coming from the left, from the liberal campuses. And I can see that there's only one party in America that has an openly anti-Semitic congressperson, and that's the Democratic Party. So my Jewish friends say, well, I'm sorry. My number one concern for me and my family is anti-Semitism. Nothing else matters. I don't care. I don't even care about democracy. I don't want, we're still like, maybe you guys moved on, but a lot of Jews have not moved on from Holocaust, especially with what happened a couple of years ago in Israel, right? So most of my Jewish friends voted for Trump, who they did not like, specifically because they just could not vote for the party that has openly anti-Semitic congressperson. So that was their reasoning. I also know a lot of people who are in cities and counties and states where, they defunded the police because, and then they disallowed them to carry concealed carry or carry weapons to defend themselves, even though people said, but yeah, we'll do the background checks, we'll do the training. I went through all of that, and I was in one of the counties in California where it was allowed back then. But then when I moved to Alameda County, my permit was going to expire, and I literally left California on the day when my permit expired, and I knew I could not renew it. That was before the Supreme Court decision where California had to allow people who go through that process to carry, So a lot of people say, listen, fuck the democracy. I need to defend my house. I need to defend my family because things are getting out of control. And, that brings me to California. California is essentially, like when they sell condos in an apartment complex, when they just build, right? And you come in and they have like a demo unit. California is a demo unit. What would happen if Democrats have their way with America, right? And it scares a lot of people. I mean, it scared me, and I'm not a Republican. I agree. I mean, I'm with Democrats on a lot of issues, but my God, it scared me when the violence went up, and I realized, like in place like Oakland, where I lived, there were just no cops to defend us, and we were on our own. And I realized, well, I'm literally going to have to give up my gun. And then what am I going to do? How am I supposed to walk the streets of Oakland when there's no police and I don't have protection? So I got the fuck out of there. But a lot of people cannot move like I could, right? So they're stuck wherever they live. I still think they should if they really, really want to. But it's I'm gonna read the comments here, making sure everyone's behaving. Yeah, so a lot of, and by the way, here's another thing, people in the last week of the election, right? People got really upset, liberals got really upset on that comedian who called Puerto Rico garbage, right? And here's the thing, and this is what people running away from. Listen, I think he did it in the wrong place at the wrong time, in a bad taste. The joke wasn't very funny. But even I understood that, it was a comedian who is a roast comedian who was hired to make jokes, which he did. He has no history of racism. I mean, go look at his other roasts. They're pretty brutal. Roasts are generally quite brutal, offensive, set of comedy. So people got really upset about it. And I was like, listen, you guys have to take a joke once in a while. And look, it looks like in Pennsylvania, a huge Puerto Rican community. And they were like, they said, well, bad joke, but that's not going to sway our opinion. However, now, I already said I don't understand women who vote for abortion, because essentially they get, assaulted and have to have a child of their. I don't get that. Okay, but at the same time, men voted overwhelmingly for Trump, and I can tell you probably one of the reasons, because Kamala Harris was asked in one of the interviews, "Hey, can you think of a law that limits men of what they can do with their bodies?" And she laughed it off, right? Now, I'll tell you who wasn't laughing. Every single man in Ukraine. Every single man in Ukraine was told what to do with their bodies, while women didn't. Where all Ukrainian women are. You understand that they're not in Ukraine. Most of Ukrainian women are now having tea with Polish families and with their Swedish boyfriends now, while their husbands and brothers and boyfriends are in ditches dying from Russian invasion. They had no control over their bodies and don't right now. So when you start laughing at men and suggesting that, well, yeah, we have the same rights, when we don't, when it comes to draft, right? You're going to lose a lot of them. Now, as I told you guys before, I'm starting a new channel, January. And it's going to be about, men in America and men in Western countries. It's going to be about dating, with a strong suggestion to get the fuck out of there, but also about, being men, because I think most American men and many Western men are no longer real men, and they don't a lot of times realize it. It's going to be a channel about men's rights also. And this is going to be one of the clips I'm probably going to even start with, is that you can't laugh it off when it comes to the rights of the other sex, if you want us to care about the rights of their sex, right? Which I do. I really do. So she was an awful candidate. And the thing is, Democratic Party didn't even like her, right? I mean, from day one, they pretty much hidden her from the public eye, and the fact that that's who they thought was going to win. The reason Biden won was because he was quite centrist. That's why he was able to beat Trump, right? Because a lot of independents say, you know what? I like that. I like that he's closer to us in the center. She's nowhere near the center, and I think that's why she lost. We'll find out more over the next probably week. And by the way, can we stop fucking doing polls? Fuck these pollsters. I mean, this is the time to do your own analysis. Look at what the results are right now, and then go and look at what the polls showed. Not even close. Not even close. And they did the data modeling and adjustment for the new Trump voter and the new Kenyan, and they were still dead wrong. Why bother? Why bother doing polls if you're going to be wrong literally almost every time? There was a guy who predicted 9 out of 10 elections dead wrong. And the guy who was right, essentially on top of all of his data, basically said he thought that Trump was going to win on his gut feeling. Why do we need these people? Why do we need these pollsters? And by the way, margin of error of 3% even, but sometimes 5%. These elections are decided by 1, 2, 3, 4 points. So that's not good enough to start with. But so can we just fucking get rid of all these pollsters? They are useless. But this is the time to realize that, right? I mean, we gave it to them because the 2016 election was definitely unprecedented. Okay. After that, they got it kind of right, but a little wrong, and we forgave them. But this time around, no more pollsters. Can we agree on that? So I hope this is making sense. And like I said, I'm independent. I was going to be sad today anyway, but I'm also trying to be a little optimistic because, like I said, I think I want a different foreign policy. And I don't think Kamala Harris was going to be that much different from Biden's administration. She probably was going to have the same cabinet members, same advisors, which I understand, right? I want a different strategy. And I got to tell you, what Trump said about how to end the Russian war, even though usually when I listen to him, I want to just kill myself, okay? But I don't know how, but what he said about his vision on that war made all the sense in the world to me. And I like that. He basically said, we need to make sure that people stop dying, right? And whatever compromises we need to make, which at this point, it looks like Ukraine will have to concede that land unless they want to have more and more of their population killed and the country set back and destroyed, it's not the best solution, but it is the only feasible solution for the war to end, rather than consistently giving them more money and escalating things with Russia and all that stuff. We do have to live on the same planet with Russia. They are an evil empire, but they are on the same planet, and you have to get along. Like China, we don't agree with them, right? They're a communist country. There's a lot of things that we don't agree with them, but we deal with them somehow, right? We have a relationship with them. So we got to get back to more peaceful world, because you do understand that 2 years ago, we're talking about like, hey, there's a possibility of the nuclear war starting, like for real, right? So I really want to see what other solutions are there. And I think, I hope Trump has a better solution for that. And of course, I'd like to see, the war in Israel and Gaza and Palestine come to an end. So yeah, it is. Like I said, what I'm the saddest about is that how divided the country is. Like, how can one person think in such an extreme way and their neighbor can think in such an extreme way the other way around, and on topics that shouldn't even be political topics? Honestly, when you go around the world, guys, if you haven't traveled, go and travel. Look at how people look at things. Like Thailand here, where I live, right? Electric cars, not a political issue. People go like, oh my God, they look good. They're kind of cheap. And we don't have to breathe the pollution if we convert. Bring them on. There's no opposition to that. It's not a political issue. Transgender people, we have ladyboys everywhere. They're part of our lives. They're bankers. They're waitresses and waiters, and waitresses, I guess. Right? They're everywhere. Nobody says anything. They're just normal parts of our lives. And the whole bathrooms thing, like, by the way, in a lot of these countries, including Thailand, if you're a man and you're at the urinal and you're peeing and with your stuff out, a lot of times there will be a young woman around you who's a cleaner, who's just cleaning around, and there she is, a female, and and nobody bats an eye. Nobody bats an eye. It's just like, I'm so sad that America is like made almost everything into political issue, and then everybody got divided into these camps that just hate each other. So I'm just definitely sad. But at the same time, as you guys probably know, I am working on a course for Western men who want to find more traditional women on how to move overseas. And as I'm filming it now, I realize that if I take the subset of those videos, this will just be an instructional menu of anybody who wants to move out of America. And there should be a lot of people who are seriously considering, now that they know Trump won, which I is my suggestion. You think Trump is going to ruin America? Fair enough. Go somewhere else. And this is from the guy who's done it twice, right? So, by the way, there are other countries that will give you citizenship over the years. You can do that. Go to other countries. But I think what you're also going to find out, and I'm going to talk about it in my course when people decide to actually leave America, is that, just so you know, other countries, they have their own ideas of democracies, and other amazing countries that have better healthcare, much lower crime, and many other things. It is at the expense of democracy. Usually where you have dictatorships, there's very little crime, right? So make your decisions. But yeah, so I'm gonna put up that course as fast as I just started filming, but that course is gonna be like 15 hours long. So and of course, as you guys probably know, that I've been losing my voice because of my health condition. So that's not a good sign for someone who makes a living with his voice. So, all right, guys, let me go over some of your replies. It's some of your posts. It sounds like most of you are pretty reasonable, and no one's gotten out of control. Matthew says people are overreacting about the election. Well, we don't know yet, and neither do they. So I guess you're right, because listen, most likely, right? Most likely, Trump's playbook has already been written as Project 2025. He can say that he's never seen it before, knows what it is, but that's the playbook. And listen, they won this election by a landslide, so they get to, and it looks like they might win both houses, right? Well, you get to do what you get to do. And if that's their project, everybody knew about it, and we have democracy, and most people in this time popular vote also voted for it, well, Project 2025 it is then, so I, but at the same time, even when, listen, you guys, we have history, right? Democrats just had presidency and control of both houses. Didn't do much. Before that, Republicans had the same thing. Didn't do much, right? Before that, Democrats had the same thing. I think Obamacare came out of that, which I guess Republicans liked enough because they never repealed it, even though they could have. So, it is what it is. And like I said, you don't like it, move. I did it. I didn't like it. I didn't like dating American women anymore. I wanted to find a wife. I got the fuck out. My parents did not like living in Russia because of the anti-Semitic movements there. They got the hell out of there. Move. All right. Let's see. All right. I'm actually going to bring this up because I told this guy to fuck off. But Trump 24, we smoked them Dems. You do understand that it all is going to come back and forth, right? Because Dems will smoke you guys. It's going to be back and forth. So these are very cheap statements that they never age well, And also, don't forget, you smoked your own neighbors, right? Like, this is what makes me sad. These are your coworkers. These are a lot of times your family members. These are your neighbors. These are the people you have to live with. Didn't you guys understand? I don't have to live with any of you shits, but you guys do have to live with each other. And it's sad that why do you like living with other people you hate? Because hate comes from within, right? This guy, he's gonna have a tough life if he's going to hate his neighbors, regardless of who won the presidency. You do understand the other part is not leaving, right? Some might, but majority not leaving. This is very sad for me. Okay, so here's a good question. March 2020, what is it, 8? Says, so how badly did the energy transition get screwed over by the outcome? So I already talked about it. I don't think it did that much. You know what I mean? First of all, there are a bunch of legislatures that's kind of set in stone, and the next administration is probably not even going to bother overturning it because it's already been halfway implemented and stuff like that, and it is bringing I literally think that the bill that was passed by Democrats should have been called America First, right? On brand with Trump. But I mean, it will slow it down probably, but at the same time, I mean, I feel like the training wheels are off the green energy industry. It's creating a lot of jobs. It's got some good products that people want to buy with or without incentives. I don't know if incentives are really that necessary anymore, because I mean, look at some of these freaking prices. I mean, you can you can lease an electric car for less than you can lease almost like identical or equivalent gas car. Um, Same thing with used cars. Used electric cars are very, very, very affordable nowadays. So do we need those incentives? And they're nice, but I don't think we do. And you guys don't forget, the original $7,500 tax credit was implemented by George W. Bush's administration. Okay. This has always kind of been a bipartisan thing, and even the infrastructure bill had a bunch of Republicans voting for it. So, and don't forget, every state gets a little piece from that, and so will Elon Musk. Elon Musk will get a lot of that. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, Jim says a convicted felon and rapist was elected. Okay, so let's not call him a rapist, right? Because he isn't. Maybe sexual assaulter. Yes, but no. Was elected president by an ignorant population who continuously votes against their own interests. That is correct. You're correct, Jim. Yes, but why are you surprised? Why are you surprised? Well, I mean, did the education level in this country went up? Did the appreciation for education or facts or critical thinking has gone up? Why did you have this expectation that that America has a smart, electorate powers and people? I, and I can argue that each country deserves their elected officials, and that's what we have now. Don't forget that Trump is not the king yet. He probably will never be, but he'll try. If you don't live in a state that is more in line with what you're looking for, you can move. California is still very much a liberal paradise, and there are quite a few other states. So if you haven't yet, you move. And yes, I listen. I don't understand it either. I don't understand how people. I do and I don't. Here's the thing: a convicted felon and a rapist thing did not bother people as much as, for example, Kamala Harris laughing at men's rights, right? Because at the end of the day, what's really more important to you? It's interesting how one of my friends who voted for Trump, and he doesn't like the guy. He basically said, "Listen, I looked at presidency like presidents like plumbers, right? When I call a plumber, I just want to know, is he able to fix my sink leaking? I don't want to know whether he's a sexual predator. I want to know if he's cheating on his wife or you know what I mean? I don't want to know anything about him. I just want to know, can he get the job of plumbing done?" And I bet everybody who's watching, has the same attitude towards plumbers. I don't think you sit down with them and ask them about their beliefs and their criminal record and all that stuff, right? So you don't care about it. Have you ever asked your plumber if they were a felon, for example? Probably not, because you just want them to fix your damn plumbing and get the fuck out of your house. So that's how a lot of people looked at it. They said, well, that plumber, yes, he's not a good man, but he can fix my country, right? And then they looked at Kamala Harris, which I think it's hard to argue that she is a good person, right? She appears to me like she's a good person, but when you laugh at men's rights, when you laugh at the fact that men have to give up their lives for their country while women can be somewhere else, like what's happening with Ukraine now, well, that's a real thing for us, right? So yes, Jim, that is an explanation. But at the same time, I'm telling you, I don't understand why you think that the majority of the country are educated, uh, understand history, vote, even know what their best interests are, and possess critical thinking. I just, where did you get that from? I just don't understand it. Um, Colin says, I tried warning Democrats that this could happen and it was told to shut up repeatedly. This part has done everything. It has done everything to kick moderates out. I'm done. They only want to be told what they want. I do have to say that it's been frustrating arguing with my liberal friends, because I've been telling them, I said, guys, this is how you're going to lose this election. Okay. These are the problems. You go after mimics, you go after the Puerto Rico jokes, that's not what people care about. Like, have you met a regular person who's struggling to feed their kids and just wants to, like, get from paycheck to paycheck and not freaking pass out, like, have you met those people? Because what's important for them is something very different than what's important for people who have a luxury of thinking about democracy and the right things to do and stuff like that. Those are important, but not as important as feeding your children sometimes, or paying for your health a bill, and so I have to say, I found it frustrating that the Democrats have kind of, and the Republicans do that too, believe that it's their way, and there's just no way that anybody should even think in any other way. And whenever I would make a point, they would just stop talking to me. Nobody told me to shut up, but someone's yelling, this guy needs medical assistant. You mean me? First of all, stop typing in caps. We've stopped doing that in 1992, unless you're 5. Colin says, I'm really looking forward to your channel on men's rights. And okay, so am I. But I was scared until today, because when men, and I know quite a few people who talk about men's rights, including women, and when they do that, the social media networks label it as hate speech. Any criticism towards women, whether it's 100% backed up by data, is considered to be hate speech by these social media networks that are they're run by feminists and simps and quite woke. I mean, I'm thinking about not even getting on TikTok, because I know they will ban me almost immediately. So, but now I hope that there's something, whether a law passed or some sort of investigation that is done, where essentially social media networks are somewhat regulated, when they have terms of service for everybody, but they treat men differently than they treat women. Women right now can say, we don't need men, fuck men, men are dirt, or whatever. And if you say the same thing about women, not that I feel that way, but I'm just saying about a double standard as an example, you will get your account suspended. I hope the new administration does something about it, because I will be less afraid to do that. And by the way, almost every single one of those people talking about men's rights have some sort of a threat against them, including death threats. That's not okay. That is not okay. And it's coming from the left. So that's one thing that I'm actually glad that Trump got elected. But who knows? Like, what I'm saying is, like, who knows? Maybe he's not going to do this, right? Maybe he's not going to fight for the, equal rights of men and women. I don't know. And that's why, I thought Kamala was more of and this is for your, up to you and your comfort. But that's why I thought Kamala was a safe choice, because at least I knew what she was going to do, which is nothing that I would love, but at least I kind of knew that what kind of how that shit smelled when I opened the box, right? But with Trump, I really don't know, right? So, but yes, I am. So my channel will be on men's rights, but also it's going to a lot of it is going to be about modern dating and how men need to man up and stop being simps. And for example, when a woman's running late on her date, instead of waiting there like a little bitch, you need to get up and go and leave. Okay? Let the woman show up 10 or 15 minutes late. She will sit there and have her tea or dinner by herself. And by the way, stop inviting women for dinners on your first date, you fucking pathetic losers. And that's what my channel is going to be about. Though I might curb my terminology a little bit. Okay. Okay, let me catch up. I know a lot of you have opinions, and I appreciate it. Even though when I try to tell them what happened, I'm called every insult in a book and told queer POC, oh, piece of shit. POS, you mean? I have a very reason to hate white people like me, and then I'm incel and won't get any women. Well, that's why they lost, right? That's why they lost. And it sounds like Democrats just don't learn their lessons. I got to tell you, they just don't learn their lessons. Zane says, dictator, you serious? That's what the Democrats' mindset is, dictatorship and communist ideas. Well, actually, what you just said is the conservative Republican mindset is. So you know better than the other side that you're criticizing. But I already told you, I'm independent. And the reason I think Donald Trump will attempt to become a dictator is because he told us so. And because I'm originally from Russia, I followed Russian history and what's happening now quite closely. And I followed other dictatorships closely, including Fidel Castro. And that's how it's done. These dictators, they don't take over with a revolution most of the time. They're like Hitler and Putin. They took over absolutely 100% legal way, right? And so that's what Trump has many times attempted to do. And I'm assuming, and by the way, they've all said that all the members of the media and all the judges and all the people who are criticizing them should be jailed, right? And attacked. I mean, by the way, there is, like I said, a dictatorship. The recipe for dictatorship is kind of like a recipe for mashed potatoes. Okay, there's only one way to do it, right? With mashed potatoes, you buy a bunch of potatoes, you boil them, and you just smash the fuck out of them, add a little bit of salt, and you're good. Dictatorship is usually the same path as well. And the way Trump spoke and acted is just classic dictatorship. So I don't care what Democrats say. Like, there's a lot of stuff that they say about Trump that I don't agree with, but this is one of those things that's just true because he told us so. Just go look at what Stalin and Putin told everybody in the beginning of their, and Hitler even in the beginning of their reign. So it's yes, dictator. The other thing is I'm trying to tell Democrats is that he's too old to become a dictator because that takes a while. That takes about a decade, and he's probably not going to live for that long, you know. Demba says the reason why liberals lost is manifold, but mostly because you're not liberal anymore, especially not the Democratic Party. No, they are liberal, but they're extreme. Just like I can argue that the Republican Party is also no longer Republican Party. They're like extreme, and a lot of times just opposite of what they were only 10 years ago. And that's why I don't like either. But no, I think liberals lost because they aren't charged right now, and people don't like where things are going because, you know, inflation, nothing, like 2 wars, people's lives are not getting better. And in that case, people are more likely to want change right now. I don't know why they want change back to the guy they've already had, but I understand the notion. Anthony says, well, my Tesla stock is popping. Do you think having Elon Musk and Trump's cabinet would be a good thing or a bad thing? It was a horrible thing. Essentially, I'm assuming that's one of the reasons he supported Trump, though I do think that was also actually quite just his personal honest opinion. I mean, imagine, you understand that he is relying on AI and FSD and robotics to be the future of Tesla and make him even more rich. What's on his way is regulators, right? Regulators, specifically California regulators that have been quite nice to him, I have to say. But there's no way they're going to allow that piece of shit of his, FSD or whatever it's called, on the roads without some major testing. Now, if he's part of the administration, he can absolutely overhaul the whole thing and be the, whatever AI czar, and make sure that his company gets as many passes and the government looks the other way as possible. Nobody should want this. A person running a company should not be in charge of regulations that are keeping customers safe from that company. And that's what's going to happen. This is exactly what's going to happen. But people voted for that. People voted for that. Let's see. Colin says Trump was the one who set the date for the Afghanistan withdrawal and signed the agreement. There was only so much Biden could go. So this is where I don't buy Democratic bullshit. No. Listen, we signed tons of agreements. We signed an agreement with Iran. We signed a Paris agreement. And when Trump came in, he unsigned it. Okay? There's no Judge Judy courts to go argue over this. Okay? Policy has changed. We no longer want this. We could have done the same thing with Afghanistan. Okay? We could have probably pushed the deadlines. But having people trying to grab our airplanes because they know if they don't, they're going to die because we abandoned them after promising them everything, I'm sorry. No. Just no. There's no excuse for that. You're in charge. You're in charge of that. No more. No more, oh, that guy, that guy. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. That deal should have either been completely canceled or modified. And we absolutely could have done it. Like I said, that deal, that date or whatever, it was not something that you could have gone to court over. Okay? Happens all the time. People know administration change and deals off. Just like with Iran and the Paris Agreement. Unfortunately, but I'm just saying. So you're saying fight fire with fire? Well, the weak Democrats would never put up a fight. But with Trump's, his all talk, hot air. Yes, Democrats, they don't put up a fight, but they're also not very smart, right? Like, watch what Republicans are going to do. At the end of Trump's term, especially if they feel that they might lose the next election, they're going to have the two judges that are closer to, the dying. They will quit and Trump will appoint younger judges. So like 6 judges will be all Trump judges for decades to come, right? Trump will essentially, his biggest thing, unless he does something else that we don't want him to do, but his legacy is going to be the Supreme Court and all of these crazy decisions that they've been making, though I do agree with some of them, because they're smart. And Ruth Ginsburg, they weren't very smart, right? That spot they lost. I mean, Democrats, they're just not good at politics. They're just not good at politics. Alex, you're 1,000% right. There were a lot of opposition votes to Harris that went for Trump reluctantly. Biden did us no favors. Yeah, there's a lot of, and I also consider just not voting at all. And I know a lot of people who just normally they just did not want to vote for Trump, but they felt like they had no choice. I already told you about my Jewish friends, and I don't blame them. I argued with them because the ultra right, not exactly that fond of Jews either, but I understand. I repeatedly tried to warn the progressives, but they refused to listen. The colleges are responsible for much of the anti-Semitism from young people. I'm glad that Prop 36 passed in California. Prop 36 in California, that's where, I haven't even talked about it. It's about how much more harsher punishment is going to be when you steal stuff from stores, right, and commit other crimes, correct? Because California, I don't know if you guys know, but like if you steal like just enough amount of shit from stores, no one's going to really arrest you, right? Because those became such the lowest possible crimes that cops weren't even bothered with it, because the police was defunded in many cities and many counties. So that's why you saw many videos where people would come in, grab a bunch of stuff, and just leave, and nobody could do anything about it. That's why a lot of stores started to close in California, because they said, we can't be just robbed every goddamn day. And I talked to them when I was in California. I said, hey, because I saw people stealing in front of me, and they have security people, and like, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. We just can just watch them do it, right? So, and that's what scared people, right? That's what scared people, because that's how Democrats were running and are running the state of California. And that's what people were scared if they're going to start running the country this way, right? Let the criminals out, and then let them rob the stores. And tell police, don't do anything like, we do not want to offend, our dear robbers. So yeah, and absolutely, anti-Semitism is coming from the left, and yes, it is coming from liberal colleges. But again, cannot emphasize enough, there's only one party with an open anti-Semitic congressperson, and that's the Democratic Party. So if you're a Jewish person, you tell me how you're going to vote for anybody in a Democratic ticket, right? Being against what the Israeli army is doing in Palestine does not make one anti-Semitic. Correct, except for when you start chatting from the river to the sea, no, we're done. Right? So yes, there are people who specifically are against what's happening to Palestinian people, and I absolutely understand, and they should have a voice. But when it starts turning into let's wipe Jews of the planet Earth, Jewish people, that's when it does become anti-Semitic. And go look at the videos of those protests. Yes, some of them just want less, civilians dying, and there's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of them are more than that. It is absolutely getting into anti-Semitism. Am I doing a weave? You mean like hair? No, I changed my haircut because I was getting bald on top, and now this is called slick back for men. I kind of love the way it looks, especially from the side. I'm still growing it, right? I had to change it now. The hair is too long to style it up like I did, but now we'll go all the way there, cover my bald spot, and save me about $10,000 in a second hair transplant, at least for the time being. Listen, my people says, I like Alex, but not particularly his politics or his seeming disdain for Tesla. Other than that, I'm a swell guy. Hey, listen, my politics are what probably most independents have on their minds. And we are the ones who usually decide elections. And like I said, it's okay if you don't like my politics. I'm not saying any of this to have you agree with me. I'm just trying to say that this is how other people think. And especially today, I'm trying to tell Democrats of why they lost and how they can do better next time, because I think we all would love better candidates next time. I don't think there are too many people who loved the choices we had this time around, So I think the whole point of this is just let me tell you what other people are thinking, and especially, people like me, we do decide elections a lot of times because those are the people you can actually, get on your side, and and all you have to do is just acknowledge that. You just say, okay, listen, I understand that some people think that way. Like, for example, I understand that a lot of women say, yes, if I get sexually assaulted, then I have to raise my rapist baby. I don't understand it, but I accept it, right? And they're another human being just like I am, and they have a right to their opinion and their vote. And if that's what they want, by all means. Colin says there's a draft here in the States as well. Also, I wonder if she's ever heard of this thing called circumcision. Well, okay, so interesting, but I believe circumcision is decided. It's a health care decision done by the parents, which is within, and then it's okay. But the draft, that is, that's the biggest point. And here's the thing: laughing at it, dismissing it, that's what's gonna, gonna lose you the election. And a lot of people said that like her campaign was pretty much about every single minority except for white straight men, right? And okay, but then don't expect white straight men to vote for you if you're just going to be laughing at them and dismissing any type of concerns they have. That's just how it works. Roman says, I'm really worried that he will push Ukraine to sign the BS agreement with Russia. Russia will rest and attack again, and for years it will set the stage for a bigger war, which will involve Europe and US. Here's the thing. What is the better choice? What is the better choice? A part of that agreement probably should be Ukraine joining NATO, right? That's probably not going to happen just because the whole reason, I guess, he went, Putin invaded the country was that. But, however, there are other things that that are in play. First of all, listen, it depends on how you look at it. How many more people do you want to die? Because Russians are dying too, right? Russian people who like don't even know about the war in some cases, their sons and their brothers are dying. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. At what expense do you want this to continue? Also, kicking the can down the road may not be such a bad idea sometimes because Putin will get older. We never know. And Europe needs to get stronger. Europe completely was unprepared for this. Like countries like Germany, that was like the entire economy depended on Russian oil, right? Buying a few more years, even if it gets you to the same place where we're at right now, probably is not a bad thing because, one, what is the alternative? Two, this way, less people will die. And three, Europe will be more prepared for that war. I mean, there is no good solution here, right? There's only like bad solution and a solution that's a little better. And I did not think that the current solution is sustainable. Like how many more years is this war going to go on? We haven't done much progress with that war in the last year, right? Sir, there is no therapy for this. I won't even talk about the basic racism behind it. Racism? What do you mean? I know that it's a chance my voting rights might be an issue. Blacks were just able to vote in 1965. What does this have to do with? But that Trump has doubled the percentage number of black voters in some states, like doubled. And by the way, whose vote didn't count? Vote was not count in this election? This white guys. I started my live stream by telling you that, I dropped off my ballot at the U.S. Embassy. I gave it to my federal government and they lost it. And I'm not black, as you can see. So, but make your case. Make your case. I'm sorry you feel this way, but make your case. Mr. Ross says Ukraine conceded that land but Russia came in later trying to take over the whole country. No. So it depends on which land we're talking about, right? The country of Ukraine has the land that Russia originally wanted. They're already, cut the Crimea off, but essentially they invented a country, and that's not okay. But at the same time, Ukraine should have never given up their nuclear weapons. Like, we don't talk about it, but that was fucking stupid. None of this would have happened, and it was under the same President Zelensky. So, that was his big mistake. But it is what it is. I mean, do you have a better solution? The answer to all this is religion. It is damn travesty. Well, America still is predominantly Christian, right? And I disagree with people voting with a religion, because you're not supposed to be kind of pushing and forcing your religion on someone else. Like, for example, if you think abortion is a sin, it's not your job to make sure that the law is passed. God does not need you to enforce his laws for him or her. So I disagree with that. But it is a Christian country, and as you know, some states are now implementing, and I think several of them have it built into their constitution. And I'm assuming we're talking about abortion. And listen, if it's an important issue to you, and I think it should be, you can move to the state that has the laws that you like. Mr. Ross says, Alex, Americans are entitled as hell, as feel like they are at the top of the food chain. So in saying that, a good chunk of people feel like they have the right to tell people what to do. Well, I also can say the same thing with Chinese nationals, actually. As a matter of fact, they're even worse. But I see more of them than Americans nowadays, so maybe that's tipping me as well. So yeah, Americans are entitled, and listen, America is one of the most powerful countries in the world, with probably the most powerful military. So I get it, but I mean, either way, we can't just be cocky, right? America cannot just be cocky. We need to do something about things, and we haven't been. Sergey says the war in Ukraine is not Biden's or Trump's problem. It is the U.S.'s problem as a superpower. Well said. Absolutely agree. It shouldn't have signed Budapest Memorandum and required from Ukraine to give up nuclear. We should take this and frame it and put it up in the Oval Office. Correct. But what do we do now? What do we do? Okay, you guys talking to each other. The education are their enemy. Listen, I'm sorry to say this, but America, and I'm talking about statistically, I'm not trying to call names, but America has gotten much dumber. And the thing is, in a lot of countries that I visited, and even the country where I live in, dumb people know that they're dumb. And I don't mean just even in general. For example, like, I know that when it comes to medicine, I am dumb. I have some health problems and I don't know how to fix them. But there are people who can. They're called doctors. They have education and experience. They're not all good. They don't have all the answer, but they're much smarter than me when it comes to freaking acid reflux. Okay? So, but nowadays, people don't know how dumb they are. And they still have opinions that they really shouldn't have. And like I said, when education is not a priority, where people get their news and facts from social media, that it caters to just their own opinions and don't actually go and check. I mean, how many times I ask people, check the facts. I checked. Okay, where? Oh, that would be like ultra right or ultra left publication. I said, no, you can't get the information from your echo chamber. The whole point is to get the independent data. That's the only data you can. What you're getting here is your echo chamber poop. But the data, and by the way, data is not that easy to find. You have to be able to find data. When I've been doing some research for some of my videos, I had to find data, and it wasn't very easy. For my new channel, I know I will also need to pull up some data, because there's a lot of statistics flying around, like, oh, more women initiate divorces than men. That's what part of the red pill movement says. Well, there are nuances, and you have to go and look at different surveys, different polls, see how they're done, how they ask questions and stuff like that. None of it is very easy, and people are just lazy. They'd rather hear what they want to hear and say, that sounds right because I like it. Mr. R says being a decent person is the most important thing to me. I do not want a person who has no morals or very low moral code. Yeah, but where do you get them nowadays? You know what I mean? But yeah, I agree. I mean, I thought Kamala Harris is a more decent human being out of the two. And I don't even think Trump supporters would disagree with that, would they? Oh, wait a second. Colin says 2/3 of all homeless people are men. 90% of all workplace fatalities are men. There's so much more with regards to men's rights, and that's what she laughed at. Yeah, yeah, no, that's true. I mean, listen, there was a clip the other day from The View, and it was Joy, the comedian. She basically said, we don't need men. I mean, she's sitting in a building that was built mainly by men. Probably at least one of them died at like almost every big construction process. Somebody dies. The electricity provided by men. The electricity was invented by a man. It was sourced by mainly men. The fact that she's sitting there in full security is being provided by mainly men, right? The country is free and she can say whatever the hell she wants because most of our military are men. Yeah, I mean, I just taped part of my course about what type of women you should be looking for, which is traditional women. And one of my points is that a traditional woman, generally a woman that you would ever want to date or marry, should have general respect for men, right? And if I ever get any type of traction on my new channel about men's rights, I would love to be a men's rights activist. One of my goals would be is to start calling, not necessarily execute, but start calling for what I would call no men date, right? All men will not go to work for 24 hours, and then we'll see what happens, right? So yeah, that's what she laughed at. And like I said, here's the thing: a lot of times people ran away from her rather than ran because they like Trump. Like just ran away from her and liberal ideals and extremes and the woke mentality. And the only other direction is Trump, right? And I get it, I get it. Hi, Alex. Did you realize that Kamala's policies, radical heterosexual men hate feminism, being against family or individual freedom of thinking and freedom of religion are what took you away from US? Yes, yes. I left United States because of what essentially are extreme liberal concepts, right? Feminism and sexism against men. And that what sipped through the dating life. And that's how I started feeling it. There were a lot of incidents that I can tell you about where, there were a lot of other bad things have happened. But generally speaking, but listen, and I'm going to be very clear on this on my new channel. I don't blame women for that. I blame men. What you permit, you promote. And every time, a woman behaves a certain way, especially in the scope of dating conversation, it is because 10 men allowed that, and 10 men will allow her to do the same thing next time, So my message and my channel will be for men to get their balls back and stop being such pathetic simps. Like I said, stop coming up to girls and say, can I buy you a drink? Are you that worthless that the only way you believe a woman should talk to you is when you hand over your cash so she can get a free drink on you? Don't do that. When women misbehave, like being late for a date without telling you this, right? Or not wanting to pay for their half after they made it clear they're not interested in doing anything tonight, Don't allow that type of behavior. But my goodness, I mean, I know even men here in Thailand, Western men who consistently get cleaned out by Western women and sometimes Thai women. I mean, who are just being used over and over for buying women drinks and dinners and other things and never get anything in return. It is pathetic what men have devolved into, mutated into this pathetic, spineless loser simps. My channel will fight that. That is the number one problem with dating. That is number one problem with men's rights. And it's sad. Bobby says, morals, that's hilarious. We haven't had a president with morals in decades. You think Biden had morals? Clinton, both Bush boys? I mean, it depends on what you have by morals. Like I thought Obama had morals. And I think George W. Bush had morals. I don't agree with his morals, but as a matter of fact, I started liking George W. Bush more when he stopped being president. I didn't like him when he was president. But afterwards, like, for example, the fact that he became good friends with Michelle Obama, for example, shows me that he was never a racist, for example, right? And he appeared to be a kind man when I learned about what he's done after his presidency, So, yeah. Yeah. Bobby says, listen up, both parties are complete garbage. There is no difference. There is difference. It's two different types of garbage. And I'll tell you exactly what the difference is. The extreme left is killing the culture of the country. The extreme right is killing the democracy in the foundation of the country. Now, the only difference also, I think, is that the Republicans have to be in power to execute their evil plan, and Democrats don't have to be in power to execute their evil plan. That's the only difference that I think I see. Mr. R says, I have no concerns regarding this F up, but one of them is Elon, basically the shadow president. Yeah. Well, listen, you don't know with Trump, right? Elon helped them to get elected, but they don't technically see eye to eye on a lot of things, right? Who knows? But lucky me, I guess, because I live in a country that I really like. They have a lot of great policies. They literally definitely run this as Thailand first policy. And I like it, even though I'm a foreigner who lives here. Almost nothing that's politicized in America is politicized here. People are kind. Lucky me, I don't have to worry about pretty much any of this. But you guys do. I do think things won't be as bad as some people think they are. But I definitely think that any extreme party, which what Trump represents now, having this much control and power, I don't think any president has ever had this much power as Trump is just about to have. I'm assuming they're also going to win the House of Representatives. That's where it's going, it looks like, in the polls right now. And his agenda is definitely quite extreme. And again, listen, he won fair and square, and he won it by a lot. So he gets to do that. Everybody knew what the rules were before everybody started voting, right? Alex is getting to these a little out of order. He's going to wonder what I was talking about in some parts. No, I was trying to keep it in order, but I know I know. Listen, it's 1:30 in the morning here. Dictators do a single thing first and then is banning guns. No. Where did you read that? No. Not at all. The rule book for a dictator is start eliminating opposition. Usually it's media and political opponents, and then start changing laws to starting to concentrate the power in the presidential branch, starting to dismiss more and more powers from the constitutional courts and the whatever Congress variation your country has. And that's like Putin executed it just to the T. Classic dictatorship takeover. So no, what the dude, what are you give me an example. Did Putin ever ask people to turn their guns in? Did Hitler? What the fuck are you talking about? And other dictators like Yasser Arafat actually gave guns to people. Like, no, man, this is a dumbness that I'm talking about. Read up the history. Oh, tell me which party is the one trying to do that and which one are they behind protect Second Amendment. Sorry for my Argentinian English. Okay, I am for the Second Amendment. I am for people having guns. I was a gun owner in America. I would never, ever, if I don't want to live in America ever again, but if I do, I would absolutely buy a gun the first day when I land there. I would not go out in the streets in America without a gun. I think it's crazy. But that has nothing to do with what we're talking about dictatorships. I mean, you really think people having guns that has anything to do with what the government can do to them? That's just fucking dumb. I'm sorry. Ricardo says, sorry to say you're lost. Trump is not a dictator. Was he a dictator his first time around? Although you may want to start taking a good look at the phony coverage, it's all made up. Well, I actually follow liberal media, conservative media, independent media, international media, and international media from Europe, international media from here in Asia, which I bet you don't fucking know anything about. So you just think that your source is always right, but it's not. That's the problem with the country. Everybody thinks that their source that telling them what they want to hear is right. But again, go read some history, please. Was he a dictator first time around? No, he wasn't, because he couldn't dictate. Like I said, there are only two ways to become a dictator. One is with a revolution, okay? And another one is with a slow concentration of power and eliminating your opponents. Hitler and Putin did it one way. Yasser Arafat and Fidel Castro did it the other way, okay? So no, he wasn't a dictator the first round. As a matter of fact, I already told you, I don't think Trump is going to be dictator the second time around either, because he's just too old to execute this decade-long thing, especially in America. Other countries are a little bit more prone to that. So are you not listening to what I'm saying? I just don't understand. I thought it was quite clear. Maybe it's my accent. My bad English. Mr. R says, Alex, the only reason why Americans really get upset, oh, sorry, I'm reading it. As a group, are there two reasons: high gas prices and high food cost. Well, what about healthcare? Tons of millions of people could lose their jobs and most people would not notice. I mean, all true. I mean, I don't think either one of the candidates gives a shit about regular people, to be honest with you. I really don't think they do. Not all Democrats are against the 2A. There are very reasons to attempts to ban all guns have failed. Second Amendment. Well, generally speaking, Democrats are against. Yes, they are. They absolutely are. Mr. R, Alex, you're right. Only if there was a status of force agreement in place, aka it's a permission slip to be in the country. I'm a little lost on this one. Sorry. Brian said, I told you Trump was going to win, but no mega fan, no Trump fan can tell you one good thing that he ever did for this country. You don't think Trump ever done anything good for the country? Yes, he has. He might have not meant it sometimes, but he absolutely has. Okay. He did not start any new wars. Well, neither did Biden. The wars just happened. We don't have control of what other countries do. You know what I mean? If Trump was the president for the second term, the same two wars would have happened. I mean, come on, guys. He kept inflation under control, something Biden completely failed at. No, he didn't, first of all. And secondly, inflation is not controlled by the administration. Inflation is literally controlled by the interest rates and the Federal Reserve. Guys, this is the lack of education on topics I'm talking about. He didn't let the country get invaded by illegal foreigners, did he? Well, Okay, I'm not even going to respond to that. That's just stupid. The streets were safe to walk in at night, never mind during the day. Um, yeah, that's the price of the democracy. High crime. Go to any dictatorship, you know, you'll be very safe. Here, we don't have a dictatorship. We have a constitutional monarchy, I think. I don't see, I care so little about it. Like, so great to not care about politics of the country you live in. It's amazing. But yeah, it's very safe here. You know what I mean? Very safe. This might be true, but at least they're not public about it. As a matter of fact, Marjorie Taylor Greene wanted to censure the Talib, right? Whatever, Congressman Talib, that openly made anti-Semitic statements. So, Trump, Mr. R says Trump will slowly stop giving Ukraine aid. The one good thing is this: NATO minus us can easily handle Russia. Well, I don't know. I do think that NATO, we should be part of NATO. But like I said, I hope Trump does not quit NATO, but I hope he makes NATO pay and do their fair share, because they're not, the rest of the countries, you know? Can you share something you've learned being in Thailand, but you haven't shared before? Some things I don't want to share that I've learned in Thailand. Well, can you give me a bit of a sort of like what category? Jesus. You know, but like, for example, I've learned patience here. Thai people every day make me a better man. And one of the things that I've learned is patience, you know? But it's also easier when you know when somebody screws up, it's not because they don't give a shit about their job or they're lazy. It's because they just made a mistake. In America with people, and I still like right now, I'm in the middle of selling my Houston condo, and my escrow company is just fucking incompetent pieces of shit. And the reason that I am selling it in the first place is because 4 management companies. How hard is this to manage 1-bedroom nice apartment where like brand new remodeled, and they 4 management companies, not a single one was able to get a new washing machine. And that's why I'm like, okay, well, I can't deal with this. I can't deal with anything American anymore. People don't want to work. So when mistakes are made when I deal with America, and especially when I was in America, it's because people are incompetent. They don't want to get better at their jobs, but it's much easier to be patient when you know people do want to help you. They just sometimes are not. Like today, you know, I was getting my freshly squeezed juice and the lady was just awful. But I also knew that she's trying really hard. She just wasn't trained. It was probably her first week. And the other lady was trying to help, but she also had another assignment. And I was like, you know, don't worry about it. I have time. I'm going to be over there in a coffee shop. Take your time. Don't worry about it. It is a big difference, right? So that's what I learned. But if you can just tell me a little bit about like, what is it that you want to hear? What are the things that I've learned being in Thailand? I'd be more than happy to share. I love this place. I really love this country. Trump is the real gangster in the politics, and for that, the black voters started to love him. Stupid reason to love the guy, but yeah, he you gotta say, like, you gotta give it to him, right? Like, he lost the election and he stuck around and he tried and he was losing again and he pulled it off. You know, you gotta give it to a guy. You know, Putin will not agree to a peace deal. I think he's getting squeezed a little bit there as well. I think he also wants to save face a little, so he will probably, if it's the right deal. Mr. R says the sad fact is this: we're kind of the world police, and we need to back up NATO. Yes, we are, but again, we should also tell NATO that we're not just doing it for shits and giggles. They need to start taking that war seriously and putting more money into it. You know? Because one day we might need them. Most likely we will not, but it can happen. Yeah, but except for what are we gonna need them for? Every goddamn time we're trying to do something, they're hiding. Joy was right. She's in her 60s or 70s. She's dry as a rock. But she said we don't need men. But listen, maybe sexually she doesn't need men. Though I always thought that if you're older person, you want to have a companion at the very least, But no, she was talking um, about all men. Mr. R says, I don't think feminism is a liberal concept. I think it's a Western thing. It is a liberal concept, but I don't even care about that. What's happening now to women, because feminism is about equal rights, but that's not what's happening now with women. Women want to be on top, and I don't mean in a sexual. I mean, and they have gotten their way. They've definitely want to dominate men, and by all means, they've accomplished that. That is definitely a left, the liberal concept. Alex, did you consider yourself a libertarian? Because hearing you talk, it seems, but every time I talk to a Democrat, they say I'm a Republican. Every time I talk to a Republican, they said I'm a Democrat. Yeah, some people think I'm a libertarian, but no, I don't want to belong to any of those like preset mentalities. I'm independent. Things change all the time, like, I was much more liberal when I was younger, but then I started a business and I realized, well, holy shit, like that's not fair. I'm paying all these taxes and, I'm providing all these jobs, and I'm not getting any breaks. As a matter of fact, I have to pay more and more and more, and I'm keeping way less than if I was just an employee somewhere else, even though I work much harder to provide jobs. So those people can be. So like I started to realize that I'm more pro-business. Then I became a man of a household, and I'm like, well, holy shit, I better be able to defend, myself. And at some point, when the myself and my girlfriend, right? And at some point, when the crime went up really high, I was like, well, better buy a gun. Oh shit, I can't because California doesn't allow it. All right, finally, I'm in the right county. Now I can get the training and get my gun permit. You just became more and more conservative as the more responsibilities you have, and I think that's quite natural. But at the same time, like Democrats think I'm a Republican. I've been told this over the last 2 or 3 weeks repeatedly because, I was telling them how their candidate is extreme left nut. And when I talk to Republicans, they're like, oh, you're too liberal. Gay marriage? How dare you, So yeah, but now I live in a country where, like, this is why I like Thailand. Abortions, make your own choice. Lady boys, sure. Fully covered women in burqas, sure. I think I told you guys a few times, right? We literally have a neighborhood here about 15 minutes away from where I live, is where you will absolutely on daily basis see lady boys walking shoulder to shoulder with fully covered Muslim women in burqas, and everybody gets along. You can say shit about other people. Yes, in America it would be considered racist, but here it's just considered honest, and it's his opinion. He's entitled to be. Oh God, it's so refreshing. Weed is legal. Abortions are legal. Being transgender is okay. Being gay is okay. Being white man is okay. Believe it or not, something in America is definitely got away from. And I don't like it. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah. CM says Jimmy Carter probably had the highest morals of all. I'm not that old, but I don't know enough to comment actually. Sebastian says, going to the total opposite than what extreme women's feminist does. It was going to help American dating. Do you really believe that? Is that going to help? Going to the total than what? Oh, I see what I'm saying. Well, I'm not going the total opposite, right? I'm essentially saying that the reason women behave a certain way right now is because men allowed them. If men stop simping, women would stop being so shitty when it comes to dating. Also, times have changed, and now women choose careers over over men. And there's nothing you can do about it. There are literally women walking around saying, I don't need no man, I make my own money and that's all I want. And then it's not until their 40s and 50s and they go like, oh crap, I would love to have a partner like everybody else around me, but it's too late because they're in their 40s and 50s. And I'm not gonna lie, very few men want them at that time. Definitely not the men that they want, right? Because the woman in her 40s wants a man in his 40s, and I'm a man in my 40s, and the girl I dated last month was 23. I'm not dating a 40-something-year-old. I'm sorry. So no, I'm not doing the opposite. I'm trying to curb the behavior of men, which will affect the way women behave. And my bigger point is that, listen, if your country is full of women who truly believe that they don't need men, that they can make their own money, they would rather spend their time being a boss chick and going through the same stress and overtime as men do to earn the money, instead of being just a good woman who would get married to a man who will provide all that, go to another country like I did. Not all of your problems are going to be solved, but there are plenty of women here who don't want careers. They want men. So it's not going to be the opposite, yeah. Bill, who is a Bruins fan, I love hockey, but I don't like your captain. He's a little shit. But it looks like he's not going to be a captain for probably beyond the season. Because after they're president, they don't have to kiss anyone's butt. I guess so. But I wish George W. Bush was that kind when he was a president. Because obviously he had it in him, right? Mr. Ross says social media, single-parent households, and the internet have made the average guy weak mentally. Like, every single thing you just said is 100% correct. The internet has changed the game, by the way, men and women. Most of you are not old enough to know. But here's the thing. Here's a problem. Men are still responsible for that. Men are the ones that are going and looking. Listen, like, for example, part of the way how I learned Thai is I go and I listen to some live streams from Thailand, right? Because that gives me a very conversational Thai. And half of them are women sitting there doing live streams. And every goddamn stream with even half pretty Thai girl, there's a bunch of pathetic Americans and British and Australians and other dudes going like, you're so gorgeous. You're would you marry me? All that bullshit. And when even they come here, they behave this way. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. So it's not the internet that made these women behave this way. It's men using internet. And these guys will literally send them money. Here's $5, honey. How fucking pathetic. That's what I want to fight against, is this pathetic mutation of men. And I hope we can get it back, because it's not going to stop if most men are going to sin. Just the other day, I was talking to a guy here, American, who's dating this Thai girl. And the first thing he says why he likes her is that she's very smart. What? Smart? That's the number one thing you're looking for in a woman. Wow. Like, I don't know what to do with it. Why do you need someone who is smart? I don't get it. There's like 100 other things that you want out of your future girlfriend or wife that ain't that. That's something you want out of your president, right? Yeah. So it's. Do you plan to renounce U.S. citizenship at all? So no, because I don't have any other citizenship, and that passport gets me traveling pretty well. Why? Thailand will never give me a citizenship. That's not the country that would do that. Sorry, my throat is giving out. Yeah. So I didn't even actually renounce my Russian citizenship. I just never got it. I'm sure if I go to U.S. Embassy here, I'll get my Russian citizenship as well, because I have my birth certificate here. But yeah, no. Here's the thing. Yeah, why? I don't even understand why. Sebastian says it's not dumbness; it's an opinion from someone which lives in Argentina under another hairy dictator wannabe. Well, I don't know what I call dumb, so you have to remind me. Um, the only dictator was Obama, and still is trying to put someone on his name there. You don't understand what a dictator is. This is why I'm not surprised with the election results. Like, this is incredibly dumb. Like, this is a demonstration of like not understanding the basic terms that we're using in this conversation, like a dictator. Um, okay, status of force agreement was in regards to the Afghan pullout. Well, now I forgot your previous comment, but here's the thing. Listen, Biden administration could have not execute that agreement or modify it or delay it, and they didn't. It was a horrible, horrible mistake. And when she was asked about it, she did not own up to it. You know what I mean? Like, that was my problem with her. It's like, okay, I don't agree with like a lot of stuff that Trump says, right? A lot of it makes no sense, but at least he says it. At least I know what's in his brain, right? There's never a moment where you're like, whoa, I don't know what he's thinking, right? But every time on all the most important issues that I wanted Kamala Harris to tell me what she stands for, including this Afghanistan pullout, nobody could get anything out of her. I mean, she could have said, listen, this is what happened. All right. We inherited the plan. We thought we could pull it off, but these are the things that have gone wrong. You know, we did not execute it well. This was the best we could do. We've learned our mistakes, and this is what we've done since to ratify it, right? Like, that would be at least an honest answer. Nobody, like, look at how many imperfections, to say the least, people accept in Trump, right? You really think people wouldn't accept your imperfection, and you're not even president, you're not a commander in chief, you're a VP, if you would have said, yeah, well, we fucked up. We did our best. We thought that was not going to do it this way. And since then, we tried to do this and this and this. And I am going to be a better president for it because I've learned a lesson here. Why couldn't she said that? Why couldn't she say that? You know? Yeah. Did you really think that Putin and Iran Hamas would dare to start a war and define U.S. capabilities of being the peace enforcer of the world? Trump achieves a peace treaty in Middle East and both Koreas. Yeah, you really think Russia is afraid of Trump? He kissed Putin ass, you know, every time he met with him. I mean, Russia has tried to meddle in like every election we had and a bunch of other elections around the world. You know, it's not even a secret. So, and he was like, nah, they didn't. That guy told me. You know, come on. Yeah. You think Putin is afraid of anybody? Hell no, dude. Absolutely not. I have an issue with asking others to read some history. History is a partial and written from the perspective of the winners. Fair wins, so it is always incomplete. Yeah, but also we, like, which part of the history I just quoted to you or referred to that you think is disputable? Because here's the thing, with what you're saying, then we should just not refer to history at all, even though we kind of all know that history repeats itself most of the time, right? Yeah, I get it. I get it. Not everything was recorded 100% correctly, and sometimes we find out new things and all that stuff. But especially like the history from 10 years ago, you're right. We probably will not know what exactly happened. But the history from 50 years ago or 100 years ago, I think we got that. I think we got that, and we have to rely on it. We just have to, because otherwise, like, otherwise we're dumb, you know. The internet has made every demographic extreme. It was hard for low IQ people to link up and get a social circle. Not anymore. That is true. That is true, you know. But my problem is not just dumb people. My problem is when dumb people think that they're smart. That's the way more dangerous type of white dumb people, you know. And even the turnouts, right? Everybody thinks they know what's best for the country. Everybody turn out, you know. Remember good old days when very few people voted? I liked that. You know, I liked that. You know, usually those people were involved in politics. They were, you know, by definition educated in this. And now everybody thinks, like, even looking at my channel, like the comments that I get from people, it's like, wow, your statement is so wrong. And I know that because I've met with people and seen the factories and the cars that you're talking about from your desk. Um, and yet you're 100% convinced that you're wrong, you're right, and I, the expert who dedicated like 10 years of his life to this industry, is wrong. You know? Um, yeah. Liberator. Oh, I'm not going to pronounce it. Liberator is liberator. Forget it. You read it. Is exactly what a limited government and the last tax is possible by definition. Is the okay, but I don't think I'm a libertarian because I just refuse to join any party or any vision, even though, because things evolve. I still learn things as a human being. Hopefully, I'm becoming a better human being. So my opinions change also, you know. Are you looking for being a dog whisperer for men? I mean, I guess I am, but that's, you know, like, this is why I don't know if my new channel is going to be popular, because, you know, people don't want to hear stuff like that, right? Men don't want to hear that they're sims and pussies, and that's what, you know, I'm going to try to convey to them. So yeah, I don't know. Oh, I blame men for basically, says Mr. R, or I blame men for basically simping out on women. This is the main reason I do date. I can't compete with a sim, and it is too many of y'all. Yeah, you can compete with a sim, right? I mean, he will go and meet a girl wherever she wants to meet him. He will pay for the dinner. He will wait for her while she is, you know, finishing up her previous date or whatever it is that she's doing. You know, and he will give her tons of compliments and attention and text message and everything, and he will ask for nothing in return, and most likely get. So you cannot compete with sims. That's what I think men should do together, is to kind of bond together and say, no, we're gonna have some standards, and that's a tall order. Some people quit citizenship for tax purposes, right? Well, Jeremy, I don't have another citizenship, right? Even though I live overseas, we do have some tax breaks because of that, but I still have to pay American taxes no matter what, and so does my company. That's American corporation. It is what it is. So Sebastian says, I lived in Cuba under Castro for almost 3 years. I agree, when for Americans something is communist or dictator is far from reality. It is a result of swollen. Yeah, Americans don't know. I mean, Americans don't know history. They don't want to know history. Like, we just had a comment. The guy just thinks Obama was a dictator, which, you know, I get it. You don't like him, but you don't understand what the dictator is. Hold on a second. Oh, I'm almost at the end of the comments. Okay, I think I'm pretty much there. All right, but listen, guys, I know this wasn't a very popular stream because I said a lot of not very popular things, and this is an electric car channel. We talked pretty much not at all about electric cars, but I had some fun. I hope you had some fun as well. I know some people are looking for answers and kind of like disappointed and stuff like that, and I understand. You know, I already told you I was going to be disappointed no matter what. So, and yes, but I'm definitely surprised by how big of a win it was for Trump, and I'm surprised that most likely he's going to control pretty much the entire government, which is not good regardless of which party you root for. It's just never good for one party to be in so much control, and presidential powers are now at their highest, into the king territory now after the Supreme Court decision. So I'm definitely a little bit uneasy about this, and so should everybody else be. All right, guys. 2 hour stream. Wow, blabbled about. Okay, well, listen. Thanks for being good conversationalists. I feel like we kept it to pretty civil conversation. I wish more people do that. I will be back next week talking about electric cars. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to talk about the Honda EV that's been quietly kicking ass and proving everybody wrong. Let's see. Last couple of comments. Or you may say I'm white, but I'm Hispanic. Okay, I don't remember what I said, but okay. 30% of black men voted for him, and I predicted that. I know my peoples. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get why. But like I said, I don't get why every woman, well, not every, I don't get why women voted for Trump, those who did. But again, this is one of those things we just have to accept this, you know. My photo is in my nickname. I can't see your photo very well because it's really, really tiny in my setup here because I'm streaming on 4 different platforms at the same time. But all right. And I usually try not to look at photos because sometimes people put some other celebrities in photos and it's not usually even them. So Sebastian says, oh, you want to talk about electric cars? Okay, I saw an Xpeng G6 and G9 and a mobility fair today. I missed more EVs. Where was it? I actually just passed by a brand new Xpeng Motors dealership here in Bangkok because they're preparing to launch their brand here. I'm looking forward to that. Okay, guys, I think we've done enough. Thanks for hanging out with me. And like I said, next week, we'll talk about electric cars, okay? All right, have a great week. Don't be too sad. Things will work themselves out. And again, you can always buy my course and move to another country. It is a tall order, but I got to tell you, second best decision I've ever done for myself, made for myself. The first one was not to have children. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to go to sleep here. I got a few other things to do. And tomorrow is a new day here in Bangkok, Thailand. So I will see you guys next week. And as always, remember to stay charged.